All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to week 2 of your SAT prep sessions. Here in week 2, we're going to be covering the same basic subject that we covered in week 1 of your particular SAT prep groups, which is solving linear equations. We are, however, going to take the difficulty level up just a notch from last week. Once again, please make sure that you have circled your teacher's name and which course you are in, and we are going to get underway. So our first example here is an example similar to one that we did last week. The most difficult thing that we did last week, which is we have a fraction, or several fractions in this case, within our equation. So our first step to solving this equation would be to multiply all of the terms by the common denominator. Now, the common denominator can be any number that is divisible by 2, 6, and 10. So you could just multiply 2, 6, and 10 together to get 120. However, that is bigger than you really need to use. In fact, we'd like to use the least common denominator, which is 30, in order to keep the numbers as small as possible. So each of these terms is going to get multiplied by 30. So we're going to multiply all 3 terms of this equation by 30. So 30 times negative 1/2 plus 30 times 1/10 x plus 30 times 5 over 6. When we do that, the result is the denominators will cancel into the 30s and leave us with an equation that does not have any fractions. Negative 15 plus 3x equals 25. Then from there, we just need to solve that equation. So that is now a 2-step equation. We would need to add 15 to each side to isolate the x term. That would give us 3x equals 40. And then we would need to divide by 3 on each side. So we get x is 40 over 3. Now, at this point, we need to be very careful because on the SAT, they very rarely will have your first answer be the correct answer. So we need to go back and read the question. The question says, what is the value of 6x minus 13? So we need to take that x and plug it in to the expression 6x minus 13. So 6 times 40 over 3 minus 13. Well, 6 times 40 over 3 is 80. Minus 13, the correct answer to this question is C, 67. Now notice the incorrect answers for this question are the value of x, 40 over 3, that is incorrect because it does not answer the question. 80, which is 6 times 40 over 3, meaning you would have forgotten to subtract the 13. And D, 93, which would mean you would add 13 instead of subtract 13 as you're evaluating 6x minus 13. So all 3 wrong answers are the result of a simple mistake. So you need to be very careful when you are doing these questions not to make those simple mistakes. That's the SAT. It's all about precision. Okay, in example B, it says, what is the value of the constant b in the equation below, which would result in no solution? Well, the first thing we need to do is distribute the b through the parentheses. That would give us 15x plus 16 equals 3 times b times x plus 4 times b. Now, when we see the words no solution, that means x cancels out of the equation and leaves a false expression. When x cancels out of the equation, if what's left is false, that tells us no solution. If what's left is true, that is where we have infinite solutions. So, when we're looking at this expression, we need to make the x terms cancel out, which means 15, x on the left side, has to be equal to 3b on the right side. So we take those over here to the side and we say 15 equals 3b, and we solve that expression. or that equation. So we divide each side by 3, and that tells us the value b equals 5. If b is equal to 5, then you're looking at 15x plus 16 equals 15x plus 4b. I'm sorry, 4b would be 20 because b is 5. So 15x plus 20. So then, if we solve that equation by subtracting 15x from each side, when we do that, the x drops out, leaving us with the expression 16 equals 20, which, as I said before, is false, which means there's no solution. Okay? So the correct answer here is that the value b equals 5 would result in an equation that has no solution. And guys, this is a relatively common SAT question. Pretty much what you have to do every single time is set the coefficient on x, 15, equal to the expression in front of x on the other side of the equation. So 15 has to equal 3b in order for this situation to even come into play. Our third and final example today is a little bit different. It says the table shown below shows some values of the linear function f. Which of the following defines f? Now what we should notice is that f is a linear equation. All 4 of those expressions are in slope-intercept form. And all of them have different slopes. The second that we see that these all have different slopes means that all we need to do is find the slope of this expression. Now remember that n is going to be your x and f of n is our y. So when we're looking at slope is the change in y over the change in x, okay? And then again, that slope, only one of these can be correct. They are all different, which means all we need to do is find the slope. So we look at the x values. They are increasing by 1 in that table each time, which tells us the change in x is 1. For the y's, we're looking at an increase of 3 each time. The pattern is plus 3, which tells us the change in y is 3. So the slope of this expression is 3 over 1, or 3. So we look for the 3 in front of n. The correct answer is C. This one has a slope of 1. That's incorrect. That has a slope of 2. That has a slope of 4. Okay? All right, so now it's up to you. There's actually a 3-question Quizzes skill check that can be found on the Google Classroom for this group. This skill check is being included in your math class grade. So you need to go to the Google Classroom. The code is right there at the bottom of your notes, XSODMK7, where there will be a link to the Quizzes assignment. Now, should you not finish the Quizzes in class, you will need to hit the gear button in the upper left, followed by save and exit so that you can finish it later. Okay, don't just exit out of the Quizzes if you don't finish it, or it will cut you off. Remember, that is being included in your math grade, so you need to take your time and do the best that you can. Thank you very much for your time and attention.